Diane in Denmark here, rah rah rah. I hope you're fine and well. It's Thursday or Little Friday here in Denmark. We're waking up to a new reality here in Denmark, new measures because of Corona. Denmark is basically going to be closed down for Friday and moving forward the next 2 weeks. Anyway, I'll explain about that in a wee minute. Don't panic. But you know, life goes on, and I'll just quickly check in with you about our 40-day declutter challenge. We're on day 16. And I found a couple of items this morning. I've not got anything from the kitchen. You know, if you want to declutter in the kitchen, that's great. I found a couple of bracelets. Now, these had come from swaps. One was a clothes swap party, one was a public swap. And I found that I've tried them, but they're just not working for me. And I prefer the other ones. So these are, and I don't know why, it's just too rigid. So those are going to our next clothes swap party, whenever we'll be holding the next one of those. The one that we've got planned will probably be postponed because of Corona. Anyway, just to give you a wee rundown of what's happening here in Denmark. As I said, we've got new measures in place. There was a press conference last night with our Prime Minister, Mette, and she explained that, you know, it's funny because, and I just paraphrase what she said, but she said the Danes were really good at standing together and supporting each other, but because of the infectiousness of Corona and what we're seeing happening in other places, we've got to support each other, especially the weak people in our society, those who it really affects, people over a certain age, and those who have other kind of illnesses which weaken them. We've got to stand together, but actually standing apart, you know, keeping the distance. And all these things that I'm about to mention, that's a way to keep people, you know, from being in big workplaces and at schools and universities, and, you know, where normally we're all kind of clustered together. So anyway, I'll give you a quick run through of what's happening. I think I mentioned in my video yesterday, there was already talk where you could not hold any kind of events where there were more than 1,000 people. I was talking about concerts and stuff. That has now been changed down to 100 people. So you can see that all concerts, everything like that is now effectively cancelled. Schools, creche, kindergarten, universities, they are all effectively sent home from now and for the next 2 weeks. There is, of course, you can always have your child looked after. They will make sure that you can still drop off your child at school if necessary. You know, people who are working in key positions, you know, to keep things ticking along. You know, measures are in place, but most people are being asked to keep their kids at home if possible. In all public offices, all the, you know, town hall offices, anything to do with the state, all state employees are being sent home apart from people holding key positions. They're also asking that private businesses do the same, if at all possible, that people work from home. And also just with the education thing, the kids will be getting their homework and things sent, you know, online. And that's not really a big deal for us here, because that's how a lot of the things, how a lot of the education works anyway, you know, like handing in papers these days, it's all done electronically. People are being asked, of course, not to use public transport as much as usual, but, you know, the Danes are out on their bikes. Not to go and visit people in hospital, you know, to keep away from the hospitals. We really need to keep those who are already weakened by other illnesses. We need to keep them safe. That's the whole point of these measures, because it's a different thing. It's not flu. It's a very different thing, Corona, and terribly infectious. And we also need to keep our hospital staff ready to deal with things. What else? Also, lots of travel bans. And they've asked, of course, and there are a few other things, and they've also asked for people not to panic. You know, we don't have a food crisis here in Denmark, it's a health crisis. And asking people just to do their usual shopping, like instead of going down to the supermarket and buying all the toilet roll and you stockpiling that, you know, to show a bit of common sense here. And actually, I've just been listening to the morning news, and there was a man who runs a supermarket. He was from Jutland, and he said it was incredible because, of course, some people panicked last night and they were, you know, buying everything up. And he said, with a glint in his eye, and of course he was on the radio, but I could hear what he meant. He said, you know, people are going a bit crazy and they're buying up all, you know, pasta and toilet roll. And please remember, it's for your own, excuse my French, your own ass, your own bahookie. You know, you don't be having to be buying toilet roll, you know, for everybody on the planet. So show a wee bit of common sense here. You know, stores will be open, you know, pharmacies will be open, supermarkets will be open, but, you know, let's not panic here. And that's what I've been saying. I mean, that's why we have, you know, the Flylady routines in place where we're keeping things clean and tidy. You're hopefully have been making grocery lists. And every time we're in the zone, I'm always saying to, you know, stock up with toilet paper or stock up with coffee. So, you know, if you haven't already done it, have a wee think about, would you be able to not go into panic mode if this happens where you are? Do you have all the basics? You know, I've got my drawers, my famous drawer, you know, I've got rice, I've got lentils in here, you know, we've talked about that before. And what else? Oh, hold on a wee minute. Yeah, and I just wanted to say, if you're in a place in the world right now who's doing, you know, affected in the same ways, what Meredith, our Prime Minister, she said last night is, you know, this is the time that we really get to help one another. You know, taking groceries to a neighbour who's maybe ill, yeah, putting them on the doorstep, you know, so there's no kind of physical contact, but helping each other out. You know, looking after somebody's child for the day if they need to go to work for something. So, you know, this is the time that we can really help each other, and it all comes down to, you know, being prepared yourself. Have you got your routines in place? And, you know, it happened to me the last couple of weeks with my friend Sue, who broke, you know, both her wrists. I've been around there doing her cleaning and taking around some groceries. You know, we've all got to help each other here. And that's what Mary was saying last night, that we've all got to help here. We've got to be sensible about these things and, you know, listen to the advice that we're being given and to take heed of that, not go crazy, just, you know, try and keep going with things as calmly as possible, and that's going to help everybody. So on that note, I'm actually, you know, life continues as usual, and, you know, don't fall into that trap of thinking you have to go crazy buying, you know, hand sanitizer and stuff. Keep washing the hands with soap, and it's funny how everybody's saying, oh, wash the hands, wash the hands. Since my kids were, my kids are now, my daughter is turning 18 next week and my son's 20, but ever since they went to creche and kindergarten, we've always had that thing that as soon as you come in the house, you wash your hands with soap and water, because it really affects, you know, when they were small at the nursery, it really brought down the amount of times that they were ill just by the hand washing. So for us, it's a kind of natural thing. But if you're not into that kind of automatic hand washing yet, that's the place to start. Hand sanitizer is great if you're maybe traveling and can't wash your hands, but the main thing is just keep washing your hands, keep your distance, and if you've got any symptoms, don't go and out there and affecting other people. So on that note, I'm going to get on with my usual day. I'm meeting Vibeke for a skinny dip in the sea. We'll be out on our bikes as usual. So anyway, hope you have a fantastic little Friday out there. And for my family, my kids are not at gymnasia, not at high school, and my husband, he works in a government office, He's taken, normally he and my daughter, they take the, as I explained it, they take the train and then they take the metro. He's taken the car to his office today to pick up some papers, and after that he will be working from home as well. So that's how you have it. So I'm sorry it all went into kind of corona again, but just, you know, you may not be affected by corona, but just, you know, be prepared out there and keep things cool. And also, we've really got to stop looking about too much information and panicking about it. That doesn't help anybody, okay? So keep it light and fluffy out there. And I'm just going to give you my usual live long and prosper, because that's how we're kind of meeting our friends at the moment. We're doing the Spock thing, or we're doing the elbow, or just the, you know, kind of bowing to each other. Keep safe and well out there, and live long and prosper. May the Danish hooker be with you. Got the candles going. The rain has stopped and we might get sun today. And rah, rah, rah. Okay, see you soon.